It's 4 p.m. and we're bringing you the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Patrick Paez. Here are the stories we're watching this Tuesday, April 16. The National Grid Corporation, or NGCP, has placed the Luzon grid on red and yellow alerts following forced outages of 19 power plants. A red alert is issued when power supply is insufficient to meet consumer demand and the transmission grid's regulating requirement. A yellow alert means power reserves are insufficient to meet the transmission grid's contingency requirement. President Bongbong Marcos has inspected the PNP's drug haul of over 2 tons of shabu worth 13.3 billion pesos. The DILG said the drug seized in Alitagtag, Batangas on Monday is to date the biggest in a single operation. Meantime, the Bank of Philippine Islands, or BPI services, are up and running again. This includes ATM withdrawals, debit card purchases, and access to apps. The bank earlier went on maintenance mode due to unusually high weekend transactions for tax payments. Former House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez has apologized over his call to the military to abandon or withdraw support from President Bongbong Marcos. He said he was overcome by emotion. Still, he does not see anything seditious about the remarks he made during the Duterte-led prayer rally on Sunday in Davao del Norte. And President Marcos clarifies the proposed Reciprocal Access Agreement, or RAA, with Japan is different. He says it's different from the country's Visiting Forces Agreement with the United States. On April 5, National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya joined the Storycon. Here's what he had to say about Manila and Tokyo's RAA. Let's listen.
That is being pursued very vigorously. The objective and the goal of both countries is to expedite the reciprocal access agreement with the Philippines and Japan. In fact, a team from Japan just came and left. No, they left, I think, yesterday. They came to the Philippines and met with officials of the Department of Foreign Affairs, from the Department of National Defense, the Department of Justice. No. So they're ironing out the legal framework for the RAA. But what is also critical, no, and this was discussed by the Japanese ambassador who came to our office just this morning, is the need for the implementation of the RAA. You know, it doesn't end with the legal framework. No? The legal framework is just the beginning of the cooperation between the two countries insofar as the RAA is concerned. So there is a clear commitment on both sides, on both parties, to get this RAA done as quickly as possible. And the target is to sign it within the year.
Joining the Storycon with us today is Ami Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, and also with me here at the studio is our de facto One News political pundit, Ronald Llamas. De facto. You like that word?
Yeah.
Kasi ang dalas mo na eh. Parang short of being a regular here with us.
Hindi pa de jure, de facto pa lang.
De facto, okay.
Good afternoon, Ami.
First off,
Hi,
Ami.
good afternoon, Patrick and Ronald.
Yes, first off, Ami, anong nakalatag sa front page ng The Philippine Star for tomorrow?
Apart from the stories that you mentioned, dagdag ko lang dun sa Shabu Hall. Ang sabi ni President Marcos, ang laki-laki ng huli and not a single person died.
Yun, right.
Yan, dagdag ko lang yan.
Yes,
Saka yung sa... Tapos ang binabantayan namin ngayon is the Balikatan. Nag-issue na ng statement ang US Embassy and it will be held beginning Monday. It will be participated in also by the French. For the first time, the French Navy and Australia, dati nang sumasama sa atin, and significantly, there will be 14 observer nations during the exercises at kasama pati dyan cyber defense cooperation. So we will be monitoring that development.
I wonder if China has traditionally joined as observer in any of our Balikatan exercises. Do you know of that,
Wala akong
Ronald?
nabalitaan so far.
Oh, so this is
Pero
big.
parang nagkaroon na tayo ng parang nagkaroon na tayo ng drill noon eh.
With
na
China.
tayo yata ang nagpunta. I'm not sure. Parang tayo ang nagpunta doon. That was a long time ago, of course. Bago lumabas itong mga gulo na to.
Etong mga observer, Ami, no, these are like not part of Balikatan, but normally they are from allies or friendly nations.
Yeah.
Mga usually
Yes.
defense attaches, they're here
Yes,
to
yes,
see and
yes.
watch because that's also very important for them to observe
Yes.
yung capabilities
Yes.
ng Americans and the Philippines,
Yes.
right?
Kasama G7 countries and the original 5 ASEAN members plus Vietnam, mga observer plus India, and New Zealand. Yan yung mga kasama sa observers.
So this is not
So
not the biggest in terms of people participating, troops on the
biggest ay
ground.
last year.
Last year, that was 16,000 or about close to 17,000. This year, it will be 15,000, so it's not the biggest in terms of the count.
16,000 din daw.
The count
Ang
of
statement
soldiers?
ng US Embassy, 16,000 as well
Yes, but
this year.
I mean, Ronald, this seems to be what we could say is the biggest in terms of scope. Because of French Navy ship participating,
Yes.
and it's going to be held in our EEZ,
Yeah.
okay, not just in our territorial waters. Australia is participating, so medyo this is stepping up, Balikatan.
Yes. Hindi ko nga sure pero merong indicative news na lumalabas na medyo papunta rin siyang norte. Hindi lang sa ating EEZ, papuntang norte. Pero hindi ko alam yung actual details na.
For this year's exercise.
Yes.
Moving up north.
Yeah.
Parang
Medyo papunta ng norte. Hindi ko lang alam kung hanggang saan sa norte.
What is the significance of that, Ronald?
Well, dahil the Taiwan issue is bandang norte.
It's not West
Oo.
Philippine Sea.
Actually, yung pinag-usapan natin last week, yung mga students na dumadagsa sa Cagayan, yung PRA.
Chinese students.
Yes.
The surge of Chinese students in Cagayan.
Naging big issue yan eh. After natin pag-usapan dito. No? Yung PRA, yung mga 30,000 Chinese military age residents na binigyan natin ng residency. Tapos yung mga former military officers natin na nagtatrabaho sa mga Chinese corporations, no? et cetera. Naging malaking issue yan.
So how is that possible? While we're, how is that possible na eto tayo, we're I don't want to say we're saber rattling with China,
Yeah.
but obviously the relations are strained. How is it possible at the same time we're allowing this much nationals to come in?
Kailangan natin mag-scale up in terms of coordination. Minsan kasi sa atin, hindi alam nung kanang kamay, yung ginagawa ng kaliwang kamay, di ba? So, kailangan nating i-fine-tune yan eh. No? Baka yung PRA, baka yung military at that time. Last year nga, ang investigasyon sa Senate, meron tayong mga military officers na nag-aaral sa Beijing Military Academy. So, minsan may ganong klaseng problema or coordination. Or, dahil yan do sa previous government na medyo malapit sa China, na parang nung panahon na yan, hindi yan antagonistic. So, hindi
Ronald, hindi naman
nakapag-transition.
bawal yan, di ba? Dati, hindi naman kasi
Yes.
yan bawal. Up to now, I don't think there's a prohibition. In fact, remember, we talked with Cagayan Governor Mamba.
Right.
At sinabi niya, he actually welcomes yung pagdagsa ng mga Chinese students and visitors. And he is actually inviting Chinese businessmen to go to his province dahil malapit nga daw yan sa China. It's the world's second largest economy. So, isa yan. At may story ngayon, iniimbestigahan daw ng armed forces nga, yung swarms
Yes.
of Chinese students going to the northern Luzon. So yan, binabantayan din natin yan today.
Dahil nga, nandun na yung isang main EDCA camp.
Two.
Yun yung context niyan eh.
Dalawa
Hindi, yung
ata
isa
to.
sa Isabela.
Okay.
Yung isa ay nasa Cagayan. Pero mukhang mas malaki at importante yung Cagayan. Dahil
Yung nasa Lalo
Dahil may
Airport.
airport eh. May airport eh. Kaya bahagi yan itong geopolitical dynamics. No? Siguro before ay hindi siya, mukha siyang innocent. Pero ngayon, nagkakaroon siya ng malis.
Do we know the ostensible reason? Ano yung apparent reason why dinadagsa ng mga Chinese students?
Well, ang paliwanag ni Governor Mamba, wala naman, friendly naman sila sa China. May
But they're studying in Cagayan, ganon?
Yun nga yung tanong ni Ami. Yun ang tanong ni Ami last time, di ba? Bakit sa Cagayan? Di ba, Ami, yung tanong mo, bakit sa Cagayan dumadagsa? Marami namang eskwelahan, no?
Because we know that there was a time
all over the Philippines, di ba? Bakit sa Cagayan?
There was a time when there was a lot of Korean students in the Philippines, all over the Philippines, and they were here for English schooling, right?
Yeah.
English instruction. But ito, gusto lang natin malaman kung English din ba ang English instruction din, English lessons din ba ang pinupunta dito mga Chinese students? Hindi natin alam. We don't know that.
At saka yung mga binili natin ng mga missiles galing sa India, yung Brahma missiles, mukhang sa Cagayan ilalagay o nailagay na. Kaya nagkakaroon ng security concern, no? Dahil hindi lamang sa EDCA, kung hindi yung mga bagong mga missiles na binili natin, mukhang doon nilalagay. Or nailagay na.
Ang magiging tanungan dyan, sino ba nauna? Nauna ba dumating yung mga estudyante doon bago yung EDCA site? Para yan yung mga, mga kasosyo ng mga businesses natin. Sabi nila, namang mga years and years ago, wala namang ganung prohibition for them. In fact, we were encouraging the Chinese to invest in the Philippines, kaya nag-partner sila. So baka yan din ang sabihin ng mga taga-Cagayan, dati na nagsisipunta yan dito, bakit ngayon bigla-biglang babawalan na ba natin o paaalisin natin? I'm thinking ganyan ang masasabi. Sino ba nauna dyan? Kasi kailan lang naman yung mga EDCA site dyan.
So baka nauna yung mga Chinese.
Pwede, no? Sana malayo yan dun sa pinapanood ko sa Disney Channel.
Ano yung pinapanood mo sa Disney Channel?
The Americans. Mga sleeper cells.
Ayun.
Ano kung maglalagay ako ng mga spy? Uunahan ko na talaga, no? Years before. Para hindi naman ganon. No?
Is this idea of sleeper cells, is this a crazy conspiracy idea? Or
Well, it happened before, no? It happened during the Cold War.
Okay.
No? Ngayon, may bagong Cold War na sinasabi. Kaya hindi ako magugulat kung merong ganyan. Pero hindi naman yung sinasabi ng iba na, lahat ng Pogo, mga kanyan, People's Liberation Army soldiers, no, in their hundreds of thousands. Medyo sobra naman yon. Pero halimbawa, in a superpower...
But there is draft in China. There is draft. There's a military draft.
It's a superpower game. Halimbawa, nung pumunta ako sa China noong 2017, nabisita ko yung Beijing University. May kurso about Tagalog. May tatlong klase. May tatlong classes sa Beijing University. Nagtuturo ng Pilipino. Hindi ko naman nilalagyan ng mali siya yan. No? Pero sinasabi ko lang na
pero talaga nilalagyan mo yan ng mali siya.
Nagulat ako, magagaling No?
Ganun, Tagalog.
Pero baka naman lahat ng lingwahe tinuturo doon, hindi ba? Pero talagang kailangan anuhin natin because Cagayan is in a strategic area across the Taiwan, lapit-lapit niyan. Ang maririnig mo dyan, yung Radio Taiwan hindi yung mga nandito sa Manila So talagang, I guess we cannot dismiss na baka nga merong mga ganong iniisip din, no? Better safe than sorry.
Lalo na yung northern part ng Pilipinas is just 100 kilometers away from Taiwan. Diba?
Yes.
At ito yung daanan kung papasok yung mga Pacific forces papunta sa West Philippine Sea or sa Taiwan. Straight, dito dadaan. Kaya,
may tinatawag sila sa strait na yan. It's very strategic.
Yes, that's very strategic. More strategic than the strait between Japan and Taiwan. Dahil mas maliit yun Mas malaki itong sa atin.
Okay.
Yes.
Since we're in the topic of the West Philippine Sea, I think there's an interesting story or bite or quote that came from yesterday's Senate hearing, I think from Senator Robin Padilla. If you can have the card right now, if you can show it, from Senator Robin Padilla. Basically, sinasabi niya, masyadong, he finds the China policy of the President as too strong, masyadong matapang. Yan, okay. Padilla on PBBM's position on the West Philippine Sea, masyadong matapang. Yeah. Although he did add na, kailangan sundin na lang yung Pangulo kaysa magkawatak-watak tayo at this point in time.
Napanood ko yan, yung buong speech niya. No? Medyo weird lang dahil...
Is this the proper context of what he was trying to communicate?
Yes. Last
Kasi
year,
Ronald, before you answer that, kasi other news organizations, ang kineri nila angle dito is like, umiwas na lang yung Pilipinas sa water cannon. Which is funny, if you think about it, which can also trigger some strong reactions from people who probably are not in agreement with the senator. So, but you would say that this is the spirit of his position.
Dahil yung dominant na bakbakan last year, ay usapin ng Intelligence Confidential Fund ni Vice President at usapin ng Chacha. Ngayon, ang dominant is foreign policy. Diba? Yun ang bakbakan ngayon eh. Mismo si Baste, mismo si Pantaleon Alvarez, mismo sila Vic Rodriguez, etc. ay binabanggit yung foreign policy na dinadala tayo ni President Bongbong Marcos daw in harm's way sa gera. Medyo may pagkaganon yung speech ni Robin Padilla. Ang problema lang, parang urong-sulong siya eh. Banat, tapos atras. Banat, tsaka atras. Hindi, role yan ng presidente. Pero babanatan niya.
Sumunod na tayo.
Na delikado.
Pero at the same time, handa na ba tayo kung magkagulo?
Tapos atras siya uli. Kaya medyo funny yung kanyang speech.
How credible is this narrative? Na, kasi that side, sabihin natin mga side nila Duterte, nila Robin Padilla, ang pinaka-concern nila is mapapaaway tayo. I mean, is that a distinct possibility? How credible is that threat or that warning?
Lagi namang nandun yung danger. Pero malinaw naman yung ating linya. We're just defending kung ano yung atin. Di ba? At alam naman ng China, wala tayong capability na makipaggera sa kanila. Water cannon lang nga, yari na tayo eh. No? So, it's not about, tawag dyan, sleepwalking into war. No? Kung merong mangyayaring ganyan, it's not from our side, it's from them. At yun ang sinasabi nung press conference ni President Duterte, ex-President Duterte, before the Davao rally last week, April 11. Na ang sinasabi niya ay baka magkaroon ng nuclear war. At justify niya yung gentleman's agreement based on that, na ayaw niya ng gera.
Ronald,
pero ang layo
bakit naman tayo matatakot? Bakit naman tayo matatakot kung ganyan man? It won't be the first time na magkakaroon ng asymmetrical warfare. Vietnam waged it for decades.
Yes.
Pinalis nila lahat ng mga, all these bigger powers, pinalayas nila lahat. Di ba? Nasa commitment siya ng tao eh.
When you see
ko
Ronald...
yan from our military officers. Naririnig ko yung ganyang sentimiento. Bakit naman tayo matatakot if we are in the right?
Okay.
Tayo yung may karapatan doon eh. May ruling tayo eh.
Lalo na, Ami, supportado tayo ng international law. No? Ito yung first time na may nanalo sa UNCLOS against China eh. Historic itong victory na ito eh. So hindi ito simpleng empty victory na sabi nga ni ex-President Duterte, just a piece of paper na pwedeng itapon sa basura. It's not that eh. It's nasa side tayo ng international law kaya ang dami natin nakukuhang suporta.
But when you see a country like Ukraine right now, medyo durug-durug ang Ukraine, okay? You can argue the same thing that the international community was with Ukraine and against the invasion. But when you see what's actually happened to Ukraine at this point, don't you fear that the Philippines may find itself in a similar position? Na parang we've become a pawn in a superpower contest. In the case of Ukraine, it's Russia versus the US. In the case of here, the West Philippine Sea, it's US versus China.
Medyo different eh. Dahil yung Ukraine was historically not part of Russia for a long time. Diba? Tapos yung Crimea, yung inagaw nila, yung Crimea, Russian-speaking yan eh. No? So medyo iba yung context ng Ukraine historically eh. No? Ito kasi bago ito eh. No? Bago itong usapin sa West Philippine Sea.
So, okay. The context, the background, ethnicities might differ, pero it's still there's a superpower contest, rivalry, and there are possible pawns o yung pwedeng collateral damage sa labanan ng mga superpower to. When they talk about Cold War, they look at the Cold War as something good because Russia, the Soviet Union, the United States did not actually engage in fighting each other. Pero we tend to forget that for other countries, the Cold War was a hot war. When you look at Vietnam, it was a hot war. Countries suffered. Afghanistan was a hot war.
Actually, yung contradiction ng Cold War ay muntik na lusubin ng Russia and China. At ang pumigil sa Russia are the Americans. No? Ibang usapin naman yun. Kaya hindi siya ganun kasimple as communist versus capitalist. No? Pero dito kasi sa atin, halimbawa yung claim ng China, ayungin is not their EEZ. Ang claim ng China, ayungin ay their sovereign territory. Ibig sabihin, yung EEZ nila, aabot sa ating sovereign territory. No? Sasakupin yung buong...
Yan, diba?
Kaya kung
Natatawa kayo, isang tingin nyo lang sa mapa, imposible.
Kung hindi natin tututulan yan, no? Kahit diplomatically, sinusuko natin a large part of our territory.
Why can't we adopt, let's say, an ASEAN policy where, if you see countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, they're able to push back. They have disputed claims also with China, pero they're able to push back without involving the US.
Well, yes and no. Dahil ang Vietnam ngayon merong strategic treaty with the US. No? Ang Indonesia naman, very aggressive Nagpapasabog ng mga Chinese vessels yan.
Pero meron silang high-speed train ngayon na gawa ng China at the same time. So they're able to maintain...
They're having the best of both worlds.
Right,
no?
right.
Yan yung kaibahan. No? Pero sa ASEAN kasi, matagal na tayo nagpo-propose ng Code of Conduct. Kaso hinaharangan ng mga allies ng China like Cambodia at Laos. No? Dahil sa problema sa ASEAN, no? Least common denominator, may isang tumutol, hindi matutuloy yung kasunduan, no? Kaya ibang-iba halimbawa ang ASEAN, for example with the European Union, no? Kaya kailangan siguro ay tingnan natin yung limits ng ASEAN while advocating na yung ASEAN ay mag-intervene dito sa conflict sa West Philippine Sea or South China Sea.
Okay, Ami?
Kaya nga dyan sa Balikatan, hindi kasama dun sa observers yung Cambodia, Laos.
Okay,
Hindi sila kasama dun.
Baka magkwento sa China, parang gano'n.
Sabi, boss,
Sa Myanmar, hindi
ganito
kasama.
karami yung
Well,
kanilang
Myanmar
armas.
has a lot of problems.
Itong mga war exercises na kamukha nitong Balikatan, there's very important for military planners. Hindi talaga lahat pinapayagang manood at mag-observe.
Yes.
Right?
Ko, merong susunod na Balikatan kasama ang South Korea.
Ayun.
No?
Okay.
So,
Kasama sa
dumadami.
observer ang South Korea.
Dumadami sumasama. Dahil nga, ang issue rito, hindi lang West Philippine Sea. Ang issue rito ay freedom of navigation. Diba?
Yes.
Sa high seas. So, concerned din yung mundo dahil doon dumadaan yung kanilang mga...
Trade. Mga economic nila, trade. Yes, okay.
So it would be interesting kung ano magiging reaction ba ng China. Kasi yung sa huli natin, yung Quad nakita nyo naman medyo lumayo sila, hindi ba? Although may announcement na combat drills, hanap tayo ng hanap ng combat drill, hindi natin nakikita hanggang ngayon Usually, i-release na yung video kung may combat drill talaga. Wala naman.
Yes. Ang mahalaga kasi sa Quad, kasama ang India. No? Although, yung Quad is predominantly economic ang concern.
No, I'm talking about the Quad drill. Yung drill lang, kasama yung Australia.
Yeah.
Ngayon kasama yung France and Australia.
Yung UK sumama na dati. Dati sumama na yung UK.
Hindi na naulit yung Quad nito Parang hindi na naulit.
Yeah, dahil primarily economic siya. No, hindi naman siya primarily security.
Okay. O baka ayaw na ng India makisama. Well, alam mo, isa pang bansa yan lumalaro between Russia, China, US.
Pero wag mo kalimutan, may mga patayan na nangyayari sa border ng India at China.
Despite that, precisely, Ronald, despite that na may historic rivalry sila.
They went to war twice.
They've gone to war.
Parang Vietnam.
But you don't find India just running to the America for an alliance or
yes, pero ngayon yata yung pinaka-strongest na yung relasyon nila with the US. Ngayon pinakamalakas. Ang dami nilang mga ginawang mga kasunduan, no? Kaya iba yung relasyon nila.
But still they're still playing all sides.
Yes. No, dahil malayo naman sa kanila Ukraine. At kaya binibili nila yung oil ng
Russia.
Yung oil ng Russia dahil like China, kailangan nilang oil doon sa kanilang lumalaki na industries, manufacturing, etc.
Well, our Constitution says we should follow an independent foreign policy. That's in the Constitution. Provision talaga. Why? Is this an independent foreign policy that we have right now?
Well, ang pwede namang sabihin kasi ni President BBM na tayo pa rin ang nagpapasya. No? Hindi naman yung ibang bansa ang nagpapasya. Kaya may ganun pa rin level ng independence. Pero kung tayo ay ihaharas by a bigger superpower, at yung concern natin ay hindi lamang yung ating territory, yung West Philippine Sea, kundi yung freedom of navigation, pwede mo ipaliwanag sa ganung klaseng context. no, itong nangyayari na ito. It's not just yung territorial aggression sa atin, kundi yung West Philippines, kundi yung South China Sea as a thoroughfare ng freedom of navigation.
Mainit pa rin ang usapan dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Pero ito ang mas mainit. Okay? Sinasabayan ang heat wave dito na nararanasan natin ngayon.
Yes.
Ng medyo pumipigok at pumapalya ang ating kuryente. As we speak, the Luzon Green is on red and yellow alert. Okay, News 5 correspondent Brian Basa has some updates for us right now. Brian.
Hi, Patrick, Abby, and also Ronald who's joining you in studio this afternoon. So, tama kayo dyan. Araw, the NBCP has raised red and yellow alert in the Luzon grid and the Visayas grid. Like what Patrick said earlier in the show, pag sinabing yellow alert, so mini-peak. Nagsisin na yung reserbang kuryente natin. Pag red alert naman, ibig sabihin, rotational brownouts are imminent. Now, at this hour, we went around the areas na posibleng ma-brown out. How we got to where we went, so we went to Pasig. That's because Meralco, upon finding out that the NGCP had issued that red alert status, they released a list of areas na pwede raw magka-brown out. Diba? So, we went to Pasig and we checked it with some of the residents there, pinumusta natin sila, and some of them told us that they are prepared kung sakaling pagkaroon ng brownout o ng power interruption sa kanilang lugar. We spoke to one of the residents na nakita nga namin Patrick, na nagluluto ng turon sa labas ng kanilang bahay. And when we asked her why she prefers to cook outside of her house, she said na kasi mas tipid hindi gumagamit ng electric fan, mas mahangin sa labas. So you see na residents have their own ways of preparing for the scenario of a brownout or a power interruption. At the same time, they also have their own ways of saving up on electricity, because this has been the constant reminder of Meralco. No, sabi nga ni Joseph Nangyaga sa akin kanina, and I quote, energy efficiency, as I have been saying these past few months in preparation for summer, will come in very handy, especially now that we are faced with this kind of situation. Back to you.
Okay, Brian, it's good that there's some level of awareness among consumers about the power or energy situation, do we know whether nagkaroon na ng mga tinatawag na rotating brownouts in any part of Metro Manila or Luzon?
That's right. Yeah, yes, and this just it, Patrick. Meralco, with some updates, kanilang alas 4 ng hapon, they are happy to report na walang nangyaring rotational brownout, at least doon sa list na provide nila.
Okay.
That's because big establishments have committed to reduce their use of electricity. Kumbaga nag-deload sila. Pagka-deload, parang they use their own generators para hindi na makagamit ang kuryente pwede daan sa ibang consumer.
Brian?
Pero Brian, I understand nag-issue din ng Meralco ng statement na to brace nga for power outages. Tama ba yan?
Sorry, Amy?
Nag-issue din ng Meralco ng statement na posible nga na magkaroon ng power interruptions as a result nga ng mga red and yellow alerts.
Yes, Amy, ito na. The reason why they came up with that, may mga lugar to kanina di ba? I believe in-enumerate ng Meralco yung mga lugar na to. Meron tayong Bulacan, Laguna, sa Metro Manila, sa province. Ito daw ay parang paghahanda, kumbaga. Tama yung salita na ginamit, na possible. Ibig sabihin, pwede mangyari, pwede hindi. Pero kung sakaling mangyari, at least nakapagbigay na sila ng ito, that these areas must prepare if anything happens. Well, again, in-update naman ng Meralco na they didn't have to implement any rotational blackout, at least for today.
Brian, anong status ng mga investigation sa National Grid na lumabas sa Congress at saka sa Senate a year ago pa? No? Dahil binabanatan nila na yung huge profits ng ng ating NGCP, hindi nalalagay sa improvement ng ating capacity. Halimbawa, itong red and yellow alert, dalawa yung pinanggagalingan yan eh. Siyempre, yung init, matindi yung init, no? Pero ikalawa, yung storage capacity, no? Hindi na i-improve. So, ang concern ko dahil siguro alam mo naman yan, may mga investigasyon na last year eh, no? Dahil dapat kasi may kasunduan dyan sa National Grid na malaking bahagi ng kanilang kita ay gagamitin dun sa pag-improve ng capacity ng National Grid. Halimbawa, storage. Halimbawa, ngayon, meron na tayong mga solar farms pero hindi pa sila integrated sa National Grid. So, hindi sila makatulong dito sa scarcity ng ating kuryente. So, yun yung tanong ko eh. Ano nang status nun?
Actually, we're also yung probe na yan, like what you said, matagal na nga siya nangyayari. We're actually checking in with our colleagues who are from the Senate seat, kung ano ang updated dito. But yun nga, upang titignan din natin sa social media, may mga ilang netizens na rin who are calling out some senator asking ano na nga ang nangyari sa investigation ninyo. And we definitely, News 5 will bring you more development on this. Ang alam lang natin sa ngayon is that the Energy Department has coordinated with Meralco and other energy cooperatives. Inatake nila ang mga ito na implement na yung mga program that will help reduce the use of electricity. Yun ang alam natin sa ngayon. And again, as we speak, we are coordinating with our colleagues from the Senate.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for your time,
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that was Brian Basa of News 5. You're still watching or listening in on Storycon. We're taking a quick break, but we will be right back. This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group. We've got the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Patrick Paez with Ami Pamintuan and Ronald Llamas. Ronald, can we move on to on the statements that were dropped
During the Davao rally?
during the Davao del Norte rally? Okay, those statements got former Speaker Pamintuan Alvarez in a lot of trouble. He's now being investigated by the DOJ, and there's talk that he might face an ethics committee investigation too.
Yes. Maraming issues yung lumabas doon eh. Na very colorful. Kaya pinagtsagaan ko siya hanggang late evening eh. Ami, no? Pinagtsagaan ko siya dahil bagamat mas tumingkad yung withdrawal of support call ni Speaker Pamintuan Alvarez sa military at saka sa police. Nandun din si Vic Rodriguez, no? Urging people not to obey a president na walang drug test. No? Yung drug test, yung kanyang 15-minute speech ni Vic Rodriguez, nakafocus sa drug test. Ordinaryo yung mga sundalo nga daw may drug test, yung presidente pa. So alam mo kung saan papunta. No? Tapos karamihan sa mga speakers, pinabanatan si President Marcos about being authoritarian. No? Tapos nandun pa nga yung si Mayor Baste na not so bail threat na baka mangyari sa kanila yung nangyari sa mga Romanov no? At saka kay Mussolini. So very colorful.
For context, Ronald, before we proceed, what happened to, the analogy this time was not just 1986 EDSA, People Power.
Yes.
Okay, but the Romanovs. What happened to the Romanovs for those of
Yes, the
watching
Romanovs
us?
are yung Tsar of Russia. No? At yung pamilya niya, pinabagsak ng mga Bolshevik
Mga
at
communist,
eventually ay
oo.
minasaker. Si Mussolini naman is a fascist leader
In Italy.
ng Italy since the 1920s no? Hanggang World War II. Siya nga yung idol ni Hitler. Pero eventually bumagsak siya at binitay siya kasama ng kanyang girlfriend. No? So,
That infamous picture of the two of them,
Yes.
Mussolini
Yes.
and his mistress, na nakabiting ng patiwarik, di ba?
Kaya yung mga dati
Executed.
nilang bail threat about the
Na
Marcos...
EJK, kumbaga.
Oo. Yung mga bail threat nila sa Marcoses na baka mangyari sa kanila yung nangyari sa tatay, no? More or less peaceful naman yung nangyari, 'di ba? Walang violence, walang patayan. Pero ito ngayon, itong not so bail threat, parang sinasabi mo baka physically may mangyari sa kanila, no? Yun yung kaibahan dun sa usual na banat nila last year, na baka mangyari sa mga Marcoses yung nangyari nung EDSA 1.
Okay, there is violence, at least in the metaphor used by Mayor Baste. But what Speaker Pamintuan Alvarez is saying or arguing, yung call for withdrawal naman, wala namang kaakibat na violent call for withdrawal. It's just, sabi niya, karapatan ng mga sundalo na mag-resign.
Well, yes and no. Pag nagpatawag ka ng people power, pag nagpatawag ka sa mga tao na magprotesta sa kalsada, no, para mag-withdraw ng support, iba 'yon. Pero pag ang call mo ay sa military at sa police, no, medyo gray area yan. Nasa borderline ka ng sedition.
Gray area. So it's not sedition if it's just in a gray area.
Well, depende. Dahil nga, ang distinction yan ay mga naka-uniforme. Yung sinasabi mo mag-withdraw ng support. Yung coercive arm of the state, yan dapat yung may monopoly sa violence. Ngayon, sinasabi mo, yung monopoly of violence na yan ay mag-withdraw ng support sa presidente. No? Malapit na yan doon sa violence.
Okay, if it's not sedition, it can be argued that it's not sedition, but there's still something wrong with it. I think yun ang gist ng statement po ni Justice Secretary Boying Remulla when he said that the DOJ will investigate.
Yes.
It's noticeable that in the statement of the Justice Secretary, he didn't mention the word sedition or the offense of sedition.
Inciting. Inciting lang siya.
Inciting.
Yes.
Inciting to sedition.
but-
Saka hindi tinablang ng DOJ ng apology ni Pamintuan Alvarez kasi merong latest statement na tuloy pa rin daw kahit nag-apologize.
Oo.
Tuloy
Ang
yung
sinasabi din
investigation,
ng Justice
inciting to
Secretary,
sedition.
ang sinasabi din ng Justice Secretary as a former congressman himself, no, si Secretary Remulla, medyo dapat daw hindi ganun mag-issue ng statement si
Ang
si
klaro,
Congressman
baka
Alvarez.
tamaan si Pamintuan Alvarez sa rules ng House,
The House,
sa rules ng
okay.
Congress.
Ethics.
Doon siya titirahin. No, dahil
may ground for investigation.
Yes, dahil gray area pa yung usapin ng sedition, pwedeng seditious, pwedeng hindi. Pero sa House, may ganyang precedent eh. No, so pwedeng dun siya ipitin yung ethics committee.
Political yung sa House, ano?
Yes.
Political yung sa House.
Legal, eh.
And we know who heads the House. Kaya pwede. Meron naka-announcement eh. Imbestigahan daw ng House yung gentleman's agreement pag-resume ng session. So that's another story today.
Yes, may ganung
Kaya
proposal din.
titingnan natin.
May ganung proposal din sa Senate si Senator Risa Hontiveros. Pero parang ayaw ni Senator Francis Tolentino na siya yung nag-head ng committee tungkol sa West Philippine Sea o doon sa ating maritime concerns.
And we all know the political alliance
Yes.
of Senator Francis Tolentino,
Bukas sa House, walang problema. Sa Senate, may conflict pa. Dahil yung chairman ng committee ayaw.
Yun. Okay.
So, paano pag nag-apologize si Pantaleon Alvarez sa House? Pwede ba yun? Sa DOJ, hindi papasa eh.
Alam mo, Ronald, I just remembered na itong concept ng withdrawal of support, panahon nyo to eh. Diba? I think panahon nyo to na-imbento itong konsepto ng withdrawal of support. To be specific, panahon ni Gloria Arroyo.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Or maybe panahon, EDSA DOS was a withdrawal of support.
Diyan
The
nakulong
change-
si Trillanes,
So can
si
we
Danny Lim, no?
Trillanes.
So can we explain the concept of withdrawal support? This is an innovation from the classic coup d'etat.
Yeah.
No.
Well, nangyari yan successfully nung panahon ni ERAP. Kung titignan mo yung nangyari kay ERAP nung EDSA DOS, yung buong military security establishment nag-withdraw ng support. No? Mismo yung kanyang appointed na Angie Reyes, si Orly Mercado.
Backtrack ka, Ronald.
Oo.
Ano yung formula?
Oo.
May nangyayari yan before.
Yes.
May protest against the administration.
May nangyaring investigation tungkol sa weteng. At sa Senate, nagkaroon ng problema dahil natalo yung investigation by one vote, di ba? Nag-walk out yung mga senator at na-trigger yan yung EDSA DOS dito sa EDSA Shrine.
The protest,
Nagpuntahan,
the demonstrations, okay?
Yeah. Tapos after a few days, 3 or 4 days, nagdesisyon yung military led by Secretary Angie Reyes at lahat ng chain of command to withdraw support from ERAP.
Okay. Yun yung climax. Yun yung culmination.
Yun yung classic withdrawal of support.
Oo. It's a combination of civilian or civil society demonstrations.
Yes.
And it will climax with the withdrawal of support from the military.
Yes.
It's not a coup d'etat. And
Yes.
I think the Supreme Court, nag-decide ang Supreme Court.
Constructive resignation.
Yun.
First time ko na rin.
So legal siya. Legal siya.
Dinidinayan hanggang ngayon ni ERAP.
Yes. Kailangan ko nakarinig doon eh. Constructive resignation.
So, I mean, by extension,
Yeah.
Congressman Alvarez can argue na may Supreme Court precedent itong withdrawal of
Hindi,
support.
pero ang layunin nila noon ay kung bubagsak si ERAP because of withdrawal of support, so the situation is revolutionary. No? So, hindi succession yung mangyayari. Kaya ginamit yung constructive resignation para bigyan ng legal cover yung succession ng Vice President. At that time, si Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo.
Well,
Dahil
don't you
kung
think
wala
that-
kasi yung resignation na yun,
Don't you
Yeah.
think Speaker Alvarez is also wishing for the same outcome, considering that the Vice President is a Duterte?
Yes, pero kung hindi nag-succeed yun, it is clearly seditious. Di ba? Ang nangyari lang ay nag-succeed. No? Dahil nga yung buong military establishment ay nag-withdraw ng support. No? Baka yun ang kanilang inaasahan, which I doubt na mangyayari.
Why?
Dahil una ay wala namang trigger so far. Ang balak yata nilang gawing trigger yung much hype na pulburon video na hanggang ngayon wala naman tayo nakikita.
It's still an urban legend at this
It
point.
can easily be fake no? Sa panahon ng deepfake. Ikalawa ay ginagamit nila ngayon itong West Philippine Sea, no? Foreign policy na dinadala tayo in harm's way, which I doubt can be a trigger. No? So, medyo may problema sila sa trigger. No? Anong gagawin nilang trigger?
Well, what about Ronald?
Yeah.
Kasi yung prayer rally is about charter change.
Right.
Yeah. Pero,
Yung mga prayer rally, yun yung kanilang
Yeah.
main
pero parang tapos
Buhay
na
pa ba
yung charter change eh. Di
sa
ba?
ngayon? Seeing the surveys,
Yeah.
saka seeing kung ano nangyayari ngayon, ginagawang issue ng mga Duterte.
Yeah.
Sa tingin mo, buhay pa yung charter change?
For now kasi in limbo eh. Diba? For the past 2 months, medyo tahimik eh. Usapin ng charter change. At ang humaharang at this point is the Senate. Paano walang future yan kung hindi aaprubahan ng Senate eh. So, hindi siya masyadong trigger eh. No? Dahil nga ay hindi naman siya, kahit 88% dun sa survey ay anti-chacha, no? Hindi siya papunta dun sa withdrawal of support. No? Medyo malayo pa. Kaya mahirap din siyang gamitin as trigger. At this point,
Okay, at this point,
Kung
let's bring in...
mag-escalate yung away ng Dutertes and, yung crack in the unit team, cracks in the unit team that everyone is denying. Kapag ganyang mukhang ang pinapalabas ay mukhang naaapi si Vice President, you think it will be a trigger?
No, at this point, no. Ang balak yata nila, kung sakaling papapasukin ang ICC, nang sabi naman ni BBM ay hindi sila magko-coordinate.
Hindi mangyayari.
Ibang usapin yung coordination, iba kasi yung papapasukin eh. No? Ang statement ng DOJ last December, papapasukin pero hindi magko-coordinate. Ang tingin ko yung pa rin ang dominant. No?
Na trigger, that's what you're saying. That could be...
Ang plano nung iba ay parang EDSA 3. Nung hinuli si ERAP, ginamit nila na trigger. Tingin ko mas doon papunta. Yung criticism or banat sa Vice President at this point ay hindi trigger. Ang balak nila maging trigger, people on the streets, kung sakaling huhulihin ng ICC. At papayagan ng gobyerno na hulihin si Duterte.
So as a political affairs advisor, it's not a move that you would see as wise on the part of this administration na mapahuli si former President Duterte.
Tingin ko kahit ipahuli siya, dahil ngayon kasi 60% sa survey, suportado yung investigasyon ng ICC, tumaas eh. No? At ikalawa, ang mahalaga naman sa trigger, yung military at saka police. I doubt kung sila kasi mag-i-implement ng arrest warrant kung sakali magbago yung posisyon ng presidente. Kaya hindi ko rin siya nakikita ang trigger kahit mangyari. Baka nga makakuha pa ng suporta yung presidente at this point.
Okay,
sinabi na nga ni BBM he will not hand over, the government will not hand over Rodrigo Duterte to the ICC.
He hasn't changed that position despite all the talk.
Jurisdiction.
Yes.
He hasn't, at least he's been consistently saying that despite all the talk na there may usapan and all that, pero the president has been very consistent on that matter.
Yes, but the president can change his mind.
But he still hasn't. He still hasn't.
Yeah, he still hasn't.
And there's you can't sense any wavering in his pronouncements on that matter.
Well,
Also.
nung November at December, may wavering. Dahil ang statement niya, together with Secretary Remulla, pag-aaralan namin.
Yung rejoining the ICC.
Rejoining the ICC at saka yung pwede silang pumasok as tourists. Di ba? Yun yung statement.
But that would be a facetious statement, di ba? Lahat naman pwede pumasok as a tourist, di ba?
Yes. Pero yan ay iba dun sa early last year na statement, hindi sila makakapasok. So may mga ganung mga nuancing na binibigyan ng konting flexibility yung presidente.
Okay, we have some time left on Storycon, but at this point, let's bring in our One News Cebu desk, Dale Israel. Dale, I understand that the big story there in Cebu is water.
Yes, maying hapon, Patrick, Ronald, and Abby. The Metro Cebu Water District was practically closed today following the power struggle between the existing board of directors and the local water utilities administration. That means no transactions are done by clients or subscribers for the time being and until further notice. What we know is that the employees of the water district were asked not to report to the main office today for safety reasons. You know, the MCWD management said that the office was cordoned off by LUA with the aid of the Cebu City government last night. And in fact, now the City Hall personnel is still at the vicinity of the building.
Okay.
Last March 15,
Okay, there's a crisis at the water district office, but may tubig pa naman ng Cebu.
But last time we checked, they're losing around 40 to 50,000 cubic meters of water every day. I mean, not every day, but every week.
Dale, saan sa kinukuha? Kasi last week pa sinabi, you told us about this problem last week pa, several days ago pa. Sabi mo, nauubusan na pati yung groundwater. Saan ngayon kinukuha yung tubig ng Cebu?
Water is actually water supply is they're actually using groundwater right now for supplying the residences here in Cebu.
Okay.
Dati lang problema yung tubig sa Cebu.
Okay.
May plano dati na kumuha ng tubig from Bohol. No? Hindi ko alam kung anong status niyan ngayon. Pero long term, more strategic, ang dapat pag-aralan ng Cebu na malaki ang populasyon at kulang sa tubig ay Singapore. Dahil Singapore, wala talagang source of water.
Right.
Kaya ang tatlo yung main sources ngayon ng Singapore. Water impounding galing sa ulan. Yung
Malaysia.
Malaysia.
Yes. Tapos
Malaysia.
tapos yung Malaysia kasi minsan hindi binibigyan ng tubig ang Singapore. Kaya nga sabi ni Lee Hsien Loong, water is an existential issue sa Singapore. Pero yung ikalawa nila ay desalination. They're converting salt water from the sea into at least pwede nilang gamitin sa agriculture, no? At ikatlo ay recycling. No? At very effective sa water management yung Singapore using these three methods.
Well, safe to say, I think we're very far from achieving any of those three.
Pero the technology is there. The technology is there.
Ang mahal ng desalination.
Yes. Pero
Tinanong na namin yan yung mga
Yes.
water
Pero yung
sobrang
water impounding, kailangan mo lang ng catch basin
Okay, Dale? Yes, Dale?
Yes, actually there's a desalinization plant that is being constructed right now. It will be available for Cebu. I think it's 10,000 cubic meters per day, and it's going to be available next month by the MCWD. But amid the crisis of water here in Cebu, what's being done now is there's a power struggle between who manages the MCWD. It actually becomes a proxy war between Mayor Rama, who supported the LUA, and Governor Garcia, who is supporting the original board of directors of the MCWD.
May politika pala involved.
Okay, mahaba pa to kalbaryo. You know, maybe if we call in Dale tomorrow, he'll have some updates for us, Dale, on the water crisis and water situation there in Cebu. But anyway, Dale, Israel, thank you for your time.
Salamat din.
Thank you, Dale.
That was Dale Israel, the One News desk in Cebu. That's all the time we have for now. Maraming salamat also for joining the Storycon. Ami Pamintuan, Editor-Chief of the Philippine Star, and Ronald Llamas, de facto political pundit of One News. Okay.
Thank you, Patrick and Ronald.
Thank you, Ami.
Join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the Story Conference. I'm Patrick Paez. We are One News, all sides, all the time. This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.